This course is a companion to the book The Project Brain: Evolving Project Managers, available on Amazon. If you find today's session valuable, the book goes deeper on every framework you are about to learn, including the 3-tier document system, the janitor protocol, synthetic stakeholder simulations, and the full blueprint for an artificial intelligence-powered project management office you can run from your own desktop. You can find it by searching for The Project Brain by Self-Made PM on Amazon, or by visiting selfmadepm.com. Now let us begin the course. 1. Welcome to this 2-hour professional development session on Agentic artificial intelligence and the computer use capability. Over the next 2 hours, you will learn what changes when artificial intelligence stops generating text and starts taking action, how the action loop actually works, where the real security risks live, and how to apply all of this responsibly inside a project management practice. This course is eligible for 2 self-reported professional development units with the Project Management Institute under the online or digital media category, and it maps to the ways of working edge of the Project Management Institute talent triangle. Let us begin. 2. By the end of this session, you will be able to do 3 things. First, you will be able to explain the difference between generative and agentic artificial intelligence and describe the 4-step action loop an agent uses to operate software autonomously. Second, you will be able to identify the principal security risks of agentic systems, including prompt injection, scope creep in autonomous operations, and data exfiltration through legitimate channels, and apply layered defenses against each. Third, you will be able to decide when to use computer use, when to use an application programming interface, and when neither approach is appropriate for a given automation task. 3. Here's how we will spend our 2 hours together. Part 1 covers the shift from generative to agentic artificial intelligence and what actually changed. Part 2 breaks down the 4-step action loop that every agent runs. Part 3 walks through the security risks you cannot ignore and the attack vectors you need to understand. Part 4 covers defense strategies for organizations. Part 5 helps you decide between computer use, an application programming interface, and sticking with manual work. Part 6 addresses what project managers specifically need to do differently in an agentic era. At the end, I will walk you through exactly how to claim your professional development units. 4. For the past 2 years, most professionals have interacted with artificial intelligence as a text generator. You type a prompt, the model produces text, and you decide what to do with that text. This generative phase was transformative, but it was only the beginning. Something fundamental is changing, and you need to understand it before you can manage it. Generative artificial intelligence is reactive. It responds to prompts with text, images, or code. You remain the operator. You copy, you paste, you run, you review. The tool never leaves the chat window. The value is real but bounded because there is always a human translation step between the output and the action. For many tasks, that is fine. For tasks that repeat many times per week, the translation tax becomes the dominant cost. 6. Agentic artificial intelligence is proactive. Given a goal, it plans a sequence of steps, executes them, observes the results, and adjusts until the goal is achieved. The human role shifts from operator to supervisor. Instead of asking a tool to produce content you will later use, you ask an agent to perform an outcome and check its work. The difference is analogous to the gap between a consultant who writes recommendations and one who implements them. Both are valuable, but only the implementer changes your operations. 7. A concrete example of this shift is Anthropic's computer use capability. Claude can see a screenshot of your screen, move the mouse, click buttons, and type into applications. It operates software the same way a human would, which means it can work with any application that has a visual interface, with no application programming interface integration required. That single property, the ability to operate any visual interface, is what makes computer use genuinely new. It is not a faster form of robotic process automation. It is an adaptive operator that does not break the instant a button moves. 8. Project managers have historically sat out the automation wave because building traditional automation required developer time your team did not have. Agentic artificial intelligence lowers that barrier enough that a project manager can stand up a useful workflow in a morning. That changes the calculus of what is worth automating. Tasks that were previously too small to justify a development project now become small enough to automate with an agent. The wave is coming toward your desk specifically. 9. Every agent, regardless of vendor, runs some version of the same 4-step loop: perceive, plan, act, evaluate. Understanding this loop lets you reason about where agents succeed, where they fail, and where to put guardrails. 10. Perceive means taking in the current state of the environment. For a computer use agent, that means capturing a screenshot and understanding what applications are open, what data is displayed, and what actions are available. The quality of perception sets a ceiling on everything that follows. If the agent cannot reliably read the screen, nothing downstream will work. This is why high-resolution screens and well-laid-out interfaces matter more than you might expect. 11. Plan means determining the next action needed to move toward the goal. The agent considers its objective, evaluates the current state, and identifies the most effective next step. Planning happens at every cycle, which is what lets the agent adapt when a dialog pops up, a page loads slowly, or a workflow changes between runs. A good plan is narrow. It commits only to the next action, not to a 10-step sequence the environment may invalidate. 12. Act is execution. The agent performs the planned action. It might click a button, type text into a field, scroll down a page, or switch between applications. Each action changes the environment in some way. This is the step where humans lose direct control, which is why it is also the step that requires the strongest guardrails and logging. 13. Evaluate closes the loop. The agent assesses whether the action achieved its intended effect. Did the click open the expected dialog? Did the form submission succeed? If the result matches expectations, the agent proceeds to the next planned action. If not, it replans. Evaluation is what distinguishes an agent from a dumb script. It is also the step that most often reveals when the agent is about to go off the rails, which is why your monitoring should focus here. 14. The loop fails in characteristic ways, and you should recognize them. Perceive fails when the screen is ambiguous. Plan fails when the goal was underspecified. Act fails when the environment changed between perceive and act. Evaluate fails when the agent misreads a success state. When you investigate a failed agent run, start by asking which step of the loop broke. It will usually be one of these 4, and the fix depends on which. 15. The same capabilities that make agentic artificial intelligence powerful make it dangerous when misused or exploited. Let us cover the 3 attack vectors every professional should understand. The most immediate risk is prompt injection through visible content. A malicious website could embed instructions that an agent reads as part of the environment and follows, believing they are part of its original task. The agent could navigate to other sites, enter credentials, or exfiltrate data, all because a hostile web page told it to. This risk is not theoretical. It has been demonstrated repeatedly in research environments. The defense is to constrain the environment the agent operates in and to treat any content the agent reads as potentially adversarial. 17. The second risk is scope creep in autonomous operations. The agent takes actions that technically serve its stated goal but violate organizational policies. An agent asked to gather competitive intelligence might access restricted resources because accessing them would, narrowly, help. An agent asked to clear your inbox might delete items you wanted to keep. The goal was too broad, the guardrails too loose, and the agent did what it thought you meant rather than what you actually wanted. Scope creep is the most common real-world failure. 18. The third risk is the most insidious. An agent with access to internal systems and the ability to send email or post to a collaboration tool has every capability required to move sensitive data outside your organization. It does not need to exploit a vulnerability. It uses legitimate functions the wrong way. Defense requires thinking about the combination of permissions, not just each permission in isolation. Read access to a sensitive folder is acceptable. Read plus send is not. 19. Protecting against agentic artificial intelligence risks requires layered defenses. No single control is sufficient. Let us cover the 4 that matter most. 20. Start with least privilege. Never give an agent more access than it needs for its specific task. If the agent needs to update a spreadsheet, it should not also have access to your email client. This principle is ancient in security practice, but agentic systems make it newly urgent because the agent will actively combine whatever permissions it has. Treat each agent deployment as its own security context. 21. Implement human-in-the-loop checkpoints for any action with significant consequences. The agent can prepare an email, but a human should review and send it. The agent can draft a status report, but a human should approve it before it goes to the steering committee. Checkpoints add friction, and friction is the point. Your checkpoint design should match the blast radius of the action. Small, reversible actions need no checkpoint. Large, irreversible actions need strong ones. 22. Pair checkpoints with detailed action logging. Every click, every keystroke, every navigation, recorded and reviewable. Logs serve 3 purposes. They let you debug failures, they let you detect misuse after the fact, and they create an audit trail for compliance. A computer use deployment without comprehensive logging is not production ready, regardless of how well it performs. 23. Start every agent in a sandboxed environment where mistakes carry no real consequences. A virtual desktop with test data and no access to production systems is ideal. Run the agent, watch it behave, tune the prompts and permissions, and only promote it to real systems when you have confidence. Most organizations that have had serious agent incidents skipped the sandbox phase. 24. Not every automation task requires computer use. In fact, an application programming interface, which we will abbreviate API from here on, is almost always preferable when one is available. Let us clarify when to choose what. API integrations are faster, more reliable, more secure, and easier to audit than screen-based automation. The application exposes a well-defined contract. Your agent calls the contract, gets a structured response, and moves on. There is no screenshot interpretation, no click accuracy problem, no timing issue. If the application you need to automate has a good API, use it. 26. Computer use shines in three scenarios. First, when no API exists for the application you need to automate. Many legacy enterprise systems and specialized tools lack modern APIs and will never get one. Second, when you need to automate a process that spans multiple applications without building custom integrations between them. Third, when the task is temporary or infrequent enough that building a proper integration is not justified. For project managers, those three scenarios cover most of what is actually worth automating. 27. Here is a simple decision rule. If an API exists, prefer it. If no API exists, but the task will run more than 50 times per year, look for a third-party automation platform that already bridges the gap. Only reach for computer use when neither option works. That discipline will keep you out of trouble. 28. You may have encountered robotic process automation, abbreviated RPA, in past projects. Traditional RPA follows rigid, pre-programmed scripts that break when interfaces change. Computer use agents understand the visual layout of applications and can adapt when buttons move, menus reorganize, or workflows change. This makes them more resilient but also less predictable. RPA does exactly what you program. An agent does what it thinks you meant, which is powerful but requires more careful oversight. Neither is universally better. The choice depends on how much the environment changes and how tolerant the task is of variation. 29. Agentic artificial intelligence does not replace the project manager. It changes the shape of the job. Let us close with the specific adjustments you should be making now. 30. You need to get sharper at specifying goals. A generative prompt tolerates some vagueness because you review the output before acting on it. An agent acts on the goal directly, so vagueness becomes misbehavior. Practice writing goals that a reasonable agent could not misinterpret. Include success criteria, boundaries, and failure conditions. This is the same discipline as writing good acceptance criteria for a user story, and it is a skill your project management training already gave you. 31. You need to become fluent in failure mode assessment for autonomous operations. Before you deploy any agent, list the 3 most likely ways it could fail. What does the wrong action look like? Who would be affected? How would you detect the failure? These questions are familiar to anyone who has written a risk register. The difference is that the risks now include actions taken by software that looks competent. 32. You need to design human checkpoints deliberately. Where in the workflow does a human review make sense? What information does the human need to decide quickly? How do you structure the checkpoint so it does not become a bottleneck? Checkpoint design is process design, and process design has always been a project manager's skill. Agentic systems just make it concrete. 33. Start small. Pick one repetitive task that spans 2 or 3 applications, has limited downside if it goes wrong, and currently costs you at least 30 minutes per week. Build an agent workflow for it in a sandbox. Run it under close supervision for 2 weeks. Log everything. Review the logs. Then either promote it to regular use or abandon it and learn from the experience. That is the pattern successful practitioners are following. It is unglamorous and it works. 34. Let us recap. You can now explain the difference between generative and agentic artificial intelligence and describe the four-step action loop of perceive, plan, act, and evaluate. You can identify the principal security risks, including prompt injection, scope creep, and data exfiltration through legitimate channels. And you understand layered defenses, including least privilege, human-in-the-loop checkpoints, detailed action logging, and sandboxed environments. And you can decide between computer use, an application programming interface, and continuing manually using a clear rule. Your next step is to pick one small candidate task this week and run it through a sandboxed agent deployment under close supervision. 35. To claim your 2 professional development units, log into your Project Management Institute dashboard at the Continuing Certification Requirements System, which is abbreviated CCRS. Select Report Professional Development Units. Choose the category labeled Online or Digital Media. Enter the course title exactly as shown on your certificate, which is Agentic Artificial Intelligence and Computer Use. Enter the date you completed the course. Enter the provider name as Self-Made PM. Enter the Professional Development Unit value of 2, allocated to the Ways of Working area of the Talent Triangle. Retain your certificate of completion in case of an audit. Self-Made PM is not a Project Management Institute authorized training partner, and professional development units on this platform are self-reported. Thank you for spending these 2 hours with me. I will see you in the next course. 36. Thank you for completing this course. If the ideas in this session spark something for you, the next step is the book. The Project Brain Evolving Project Managers is available now on Amazon and goes far beyond what we could cover in this session. It contains the complete system for building, maintaining, and scaling an artificial intelligence-powered project management office, the full janitor protocol with templates, deeper stakeholder simulation patterns, and real-world case studies from practitioners who have saved 10 to 15 hours per week using these methods. You can find more free courses, tools, and articles at selfmadepm.com. Again, thank you for your time, and remember to log your professional development units. I will see you in the next course. 37.